It's Market Day Report, and we're approaching mid-morning. We've had a pretty active morning when it comes to trading the row crops. Let's start with the corn market, and this on the heels of a couple of export notes. One, the weekly export sales report, pretty positive, as sales up 62% week over week, shipments up 99%. And some flash sales overnight to Japan and unknown destinations. We're seeing a penny 3/4 higher on the D's at 4.20 3/4, but actually well off of the day's high. For soybeans, unknown sell or a sell to unknown destinations. We know about the sell, just don't know who it belongs to as of yet. Otherwise, export sales up 26% week over week. Shipments 32% higher. A fairly positive report. And beans trade 10.07, 10.06 3/4 now, up 9 1/4 cents. Let's get through the wheat market quickly. Chicago, half penny lower, 5.78. Just looking at D's contracts right now. Kansas City, 5.83 off 2.5. And at last check, Minneapolis, 3.5 lower, 6.12. Cotton market in New York is lower, 72.12 off 39. Ted Seifried's with Zaner Ag Hedge. And Ted, a lot of numbers to look at from overnight and this morning.
Yeah, like you said, Tony, we got sales on top of sales, right? Export sales were really good. We kind of knew that, but even like corn topped expectations between the old crop and the new crop sales that we saw. And it's one of the bigger weeks that we've ever seen for corn sales. That being said, soybean sales were really rather good as well. And then, we had the additional daily sales on top of that. So certainly starting off with some strength here today, following through on the strength that we've had really all week. It's been quite the turnaround week in grains. And, we've got some pretty good demand out there. Today is a proving day, though, right? Because we knew we'd have good sales. A lot of that, I think, had been factored into the market. So whether we're able to extend this rally at this point, or if we sort of buy the rumor, sell the fact, that is the question. You also have both corn and soybeans breaching very key moving average resistance lines today, but then now pulling back right down on top of them. So how we finish today, Tony, I think really sets the tone for what we're going to look like, not just going into the end of the week, into Friday, but possibly into the week after that. Traditionally, we say we look for a harvest low right around this time frame. We look for the harvest pressure to be behind us, and we look for a recovery in the markets. Now, I think you can make an argument for corn for that. Maybe even an argument for beans if you want to say that the late harvested, late planted beans have been coming out worse than expected, and maybe that yield's coming down, maybe that balance sheet's getting tighter, and that we are seeing some sales. I don't know. But if the market's truly going to react to that at this time frame, we have to close really rather well today, close above these moving average resistance levels. And that really opens the door for more speculative buying coming from the funds, technical traders, things like that. But also just really does go a long way to suggest that those harvest lows might be in.
Okay, Ted, hang on. Let's come back. We'll talk livestock futures. Market Day Report continues in a moment. So the question is, when will cash cattle develop? Will it be today? Will it be tomorrow? Will it be after we get a cattle on feed report? Big questions. Let's go to the market first, and we'll look at live cattle. Up 25 cents on the October contract at 187.87. The December trading 2 dimes higher at 188.07. What about the feeders? Feeders have been in higher territory across the board. November at 248.07. That's up 85. Hog trade has seen some strength, quite a bit of strength, really, as we're up 3 1/4% week over week and up 18% year to date. February contract 83.52. That's up 12. And look at the November, near the high of the day, 96.80. It's up a nickel. I know that's quite a ways out, but again, interesting to see nearly $97 on hogs when we look out to next summer. Ted Seifried's with Zaner Ag Hedge. All right, Ted, what are you watching?
We talked about decision day in the grains, and you have sort of the same thing going on in the livestock complex as a whole, but really mainly the cattle complex. But it's been going on for a little while, right? We've had these sort of consolidation moves here going on for the last couple of weeks. You look at feeder cattle in particular, because we like to say, the feeders are the leaders, just hugging that 100-day moving average right now, and just waiting for some sort of influence to break it out one way or another. That could come from a cattle on feed report, as you mentioned. Could also come from, say, the U.S. dollar being down for the first time in a while. Now, still an inside trading day for the dollar. It's within yesterday's range, but we have a down day on the dollar, which is, kind of rare lately, Tony. So a lot of different things that we're watching. The charts are undecisive. They're waiting to see if we can break out one way or the other. December live cattle tried to break out to the upside yesterday, but then faded back by the close. We tried to regain some strength here this morning, and while we're not down on the day, we've given back some of that as well. So really, really just kind of at this, what I'm going to call a value level right now, waiting to try to decide which way we go in the future. This is why we trade futures, Tony, and we don't have any clear future direction, which is the problem for the cattle market at the moment. The good news is, though, we are at some elevated prices compared to where we were a month or two ago. And I do think this is a great time for producers to be looking to protect the downside. Not saying go sell everything. I'm saying, hey, let's put a floor in, because I think there's just a lot of things going on in the world, macroeconomically, global unrest, things like that, that could really sour markets and sour protein demands pretty quickly if really lots of things can happen. So I think protection is a great idea. Hogs is kind of the exception, right? The hogs are something that I think can do really well if we were to see a big break in the stock market or something happen as the cheaper substitute. And that hogs chart, the December hogs chart, looks really good despite a little bit of a pullback today.
Yeah, and the export numbers out, and Mexico at the top of purchases and shipments for hogs, for our pork, also for corn. Mexico, pretty important right now. Ted, thanks for your time. And we'll talk to Ted tomorrow afternoon on Commodity Wrap on Rural Radio 147.